and appreciate everyone coming out and seeing us. Is this working? So let me get a gauge for the audience here, so I might be able to tailor this a little bit better. How many people in the audience work for a company with more than 100 people? How many work for a company with more than 1,000 people? 10,000? 100,000? 100,000? 200,000? Okay. So a couple of big banks I'm assuming are hanging out over there. So my name's Jeff, and I run worldwide sales for a company called WhoKnows. And what we do is we help companies understand who knows what within your organization. So if you think about kind of the history of collaboration and the history of trying to get questions answered within your company, I always go back to this statement from Lou Platt. It's older, you know, this is probably 10, 12 years old, but when he was the CEO of HP, he said, boy, if HP only knew what HP knew, they'd be 3 times more productive. So what WhoKnows does is we systematically and automatically understand what you know within your organization and then present these results at the time of need. So a little bit of background about myself. I've been in the software world in various capacities for the last 20 years, enterprise collaboration for the last 12 years, and prior to joining WhoKnows 6 months ago, I was part of a company that helped pioneer the enterprise social computing space. So think GI, VMware, those types of companies. And one of the problems that we were always trying to solve was, how do we shrink that company? And enterprise social does a really nice job of shrinking that company and allowing you to connect experts with people who are like experts and not rely on email for those types of systems. But the problem, and I sold a lot of this stuff, the problem is, as an end user, I have to change the way I do work on a daily basis. So in order for me to actually gain knowledge or get value out of these enterprise social computing systems, I have to either move away from email or join that new Jive community or join that Chatter community or join that Yammer community. And it often will bring about a disjointed experience. Do I email? Do I do this in social? Am I doing this via chat, via link? So while the intention is fantastic, the end result does provide sometimes a more disjointed experience. So when I heard about WhoKnows and what it is that they do and how we do it, I had to jump on board, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But at a high level, what we do is 4 kind of key values that we bring to the table for an enterprise. And this could be an enterprise with 100 people, 1,000 people. Typically, the larger the company, the bigger the problem. But even in a company 100, with 100 people, you often can't figure out how to get an answer to a question, or you can't figure out who knows what within the organization. So the 4 key value propositions that we bring to the table are, we understand who knows what, we help you connect experts to colleagues, we actually monitor this organizational knowledge gap, so we can understand what's the knowledge that's being searched for, what's the knowledge that's being connected, and what's the gap between searches and connections. And then we also understand who knows who, so that if I'm going to call on Merck, for instance, as I am tomorrow, and I am looking for connections within my company that know someone at Merck, how can I use that overall network behind the firewall to make those logical connections? So a lot of people are calling us the LinkedIn behind the firewall, and a way to bring that LinkedIn experience to my actual company. So how do we do this? The biggest differentiator between WhoKnows and any other platform out there is that we don't require the end user to do anything different other than go to work, turn on the computer, and do their job. We automatically derive expertise from each employee. On a monthly basis, we're discovering hundreds of professional skills and experience. And the more our algorithm works, the more we learn about that specific person. So what you get is, and I'll drill into this into the demo, is an actual knowledge graph of each specific person within your company. We do these knowledge graphs on an individual basis, we do them on a departmental basis, and we do them on a company-wide basis. So if you think about a company like Lockheed Martin, Lockheed Martin has 25% of their company walking out the door in the next 6 years. The baby boomers are gone. They are retiring. How are they going to capture the knowledge that's leaving so they know how to hire for the people, how to replace those people that are leaving and understand the skill sets? That's the exact thing that we do, and that's one of the many use cases that we bring to the table. And as I mentioned, we do this in a completely frictionless manner. So in the social space, there's a lot of change management required. And I did a project with a major chemical manufacturer, and they had to do a change management. They called Accenture and called this company and had $1 million change management project and had to do this, that, and the other, and they're still only getting 20% adoption. It's again, it's a fabulous way to do it, but we take that whole change management aspect out of the equation, so that all you're doing is doing your job, and we're picking up signals based upon what you're working on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to walk through a quick use case here, and then I'll dive into the actual product. So if you think about this concept of a knowledge gap, in this case, I've got Mr. Johnson. He's in LA. He's a new MBA hire, and he's on the social team at GE. He's responsible for driving engagement on their social networking site. He's responsible for gamification. Like a good employee, he starts with GE's intranet, looks for answers on their intranet, can't really find anything, so he goes and ends up going to Google, which is just his normal train of thought. When I look for stuff, I go to Google or Wikipedia. In desperation, he shoots out emails within the company. He still can't really find the right answer. Little does he know that there is an expert within GE, and this is just a fictitious example, by the way. There is an expert within GE who has been hired to do that exact thing. So what if, just in the course of how he works on a day-to-day basis, he does this search for gamification and social marketing within Google, and boom. One of the entries was an actual insert from WhoKnows with experts within your company. So I'm not leaving how I do my day-to-day work, but I'm getting very valuable and extremely relevant and extremely accurate results sent to me directly in Google. This now allows me to make a connection, understand what else that specific person is skilled in, and I can do this via email, or I can incorporate it with my SharePoint environment, with my Chatter environment, directly from Google, with my Jive, with my Yammer, with my NewsGator, it doesn't matter. We are the Switzerland of the world. We don't want to replace anything. We want to enhance all the other applications that you've bought to solve this specific problem. So the idea is, don't take them out of the workflow, and do insert this stuff within the general areas where they're used to working. And it could be Google, it could be SharePoint. That search I did in Google could very well have been in Autonomy or in Deca or SharePoint or Jive or Yammer. We don't care. All we're doing is inserting JavaScript directly into that result set. The other thing that we're doing is we're telling you exactly what it is that people are looking for within your organization. So in this area, here are the searches that are being done. Here's the knowledge that exists for those particular searches, and here's the gap. So if I'm an HR executive, I have the opportunity to say, boy, we've got a lot of people looking for this particular information, but we don't have that specific knowledge living within our organization. Maybe we should go out and recruit people for that specific job function. So I'm going to exit out of here for 1 second before I talk about the who knows who and give you a little example of how that works. That means I'm going to have to exit the show.
Yeah, it still records.
It's still good. So, again, here's an example. If I was just doing a search for venture capital. Right, so I do my search for venture capital. I'm getting all my normal Google stuff. But bam, I'm also getting a result directly in line within Google. And I can say, oh boy, this Tim guy might be able to help me out. I can send Tim an email. Again, I can link this to my link backend, send him an instant message, link to my Yammer experience, aim it to a Yammer community. I can also say, what else does Tim have expertise in? Get a better understanding of Tim. And then in the profile, which I don't have time to go into, I could click on Tim's profile, and much like LinkedIn, say, all right, who are the people most like Tim? Because Tim's on sabbatical or Tim's on vacation. I want to build a team of the 10 people most closely tied to Tim. The key is they're not closely tied to Tim based on relationships, right? Tim and I don't, it's not because Tim and I go to lunch. That's not why we're tied together. We're tied together because Tim and I have the exact same knowledge. So when I go to look for that knowledge that Tim has, I'm going to get the 10 people most closely related to Tim, not based on relationship, but based on what I actually need, which is an answer. And then when I go and drill into something like this, here's an example of a small department, accumulated expertise. This is a Fortune 50 technology company that ran our system for 2 months. And I do have to say, this is a learning system. This is machine learning. This takes time. The reason we're so accurate, and by the way, in our pilots, we're always 90% plus accurate. This particular pilot, we were over 90% accurate on the skills that we discovered. But it takes time. This takes this took 60 days for us to learn these specific skills. But within the 60 days, we uncovered a little over 6,000 skills covering 518 topics. So if we think about enterprise profiling and what a typical organization would put into a profile, you're going to declare usually what's in this circle, maybe a couple things within this circle, and that's fine from a profile. So if you're doing a search and you maybe have a MySite profile and you put your expertise in there and you use the fast search component and you do that search, your results just aren't that great because you're only getting the declarative information. What we're providing is the actual real stuff, right? This is the crap that people actually do. This is the stuff that we know. It's not what people declare, it's what people do. It's what people do, it's what people say they do, and the key is it's what other people say about them that they do. Those are three of the key things that go into to building this. So I can really understand now the outer rings. If I'm doing a search for something like, I don't know, what's something pretty obscure here. I don't know. Programming language classification. Maybe you'll put that in your profile. I doubt it. But if I have a programming language classification problem, and I just start to do a search within Google or within SharePoint or wherever my search, and I start to get real results, that is a huge benefit to my organization. Because what used to take me 2 weeks, or perhaps 2 months to find that specific person, I'm going to get instantaneously, in line, without disturbing what I do on a day-to-day basis, without having to do anything different from an end-user basis, and I get real results that are extremely accurate. I'm going to pause there for a second, and I don't know, just see if there are any questions. I think I'm pretty close to time anyway.
What's the color code? Is there a color code? Is that the degree of knowledge? You quantify the knowledge of the person by color code? Or how? But so it's not not always you have a one-to-one match.
So right. So the color code in this is just to make it look pretty. We've got a list version as well. So the degree of knowledge can actually be pulled in a list form, where there is a scoring mechanism that goes behind it, where there's an actual quantifiable score that says, X person is X percentage for this specific skill. And we're smart enough to know, right? I'm from Chicago. If someone's doing a search for weather in Chicago, we're not going to put an expert up for weather in Chicago. We know, I didn't write this stuff, right? I sell the stuff. we know when someone actually needs help on a specific problem. Yes.
So do you sit and look at all the emails that are passed? Like, do you sit on top of the email infrastructure as well as the SharePoint and the wikis and things like that?
So email is something we do. We're sensitive to it because not a lot of people want us analyzing their email, but email is absolutely a data source that we tie into if a organization wants us to. Now, email is critical for our Who Knows Who story because when I go to look for who knows someone within JP Morgan, right? The inferences that I learn from email give us much broader signals. So we're sensitive to email, but it's a great data source if the company is willing to give it over to us.
What do prospects ask you about? Are they concerned about like confidentiality or legal? And how do you?
Prospects, they ask us, how are you doing it?
Yeah.
Am I going to be the fantasy football expert within my company?
Is my new venture going to come out on this?
Is my new venture going to come out on this? All sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
So, does it slip in the cloud? Who owns the data? All this stuff, right? We're looking at Germany. How the heck are the Germans going to use this? Well, Germans are it. But there's ways to blacklist sites, right? So, Yahoo Fantasy Football is not part of the equation. Facebook's not. So you blacklist. So what's happening in the background is we have a lexicon with 6 million terms, and what we're doing is making these 1.2 billion inferences against the terms. And as an end user, you have the ability to publish what you want to publish. So before it gets live, you say, well, wait a minute, I am the expert in fantasy football, but I don't want to take questions on that. So and likewise, there are companies who have been trying to tackle this problem for years, and they have designated subject matter experts. We get that, right? We crank up the engine and say, Bob, Pete, and Harry are the designated experts for polymers within Coca-Cola or whatever it has to be. Yeah.
Could you please go back a few slides when you had individual users? You had like some numbers for them, like 67 skills or 15. Could you please better describe what these numbers actually mean? And then my second question would be, can you also do voice recognition or is it just data?
Data. Voice, that'd be cool. Is this a slide?
Yeah, here, 67, 15, 33.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. What we do is we break it down into 4 categories: skills, expertise, skilled, and knowledgeable. So just different classifications of where you are within the overall graph. When someone does a search, we've got what's called adaptive surfacing. And I don't want to always give the expert. If I'm doing a search for .NET, .NET programming, we don't always want to give the .NET guy. We want to give the .NET guy that knows more than the person that's doing the search. So we need to understand who's doing the search and what are they really searching for. Do they really need the guy with 20 years .NET experience? Or do they just need the guy with more skill than they have? So that's our adaptive surfacing component. I think probably on a couple more, but
When you're pitching this product to a company, who is the decision maker will give you the kind of authority to roll out this product in the organization? And second question is, how do you get participation across the company? There might be chances people feel comfortable being monitored.
yep. Typical people we're talking to are knowledge management, HR, office of the CIO, because everything runs through the CIO and people want to call it the CIO is great for us. And then, any type of executive. Everyone's got this problem. So the second part, I think people realize, right, unless you're walking around with tinfoil on your head, you're getting monitored. It's a reality of life. So why don't we take what's happening and actually get some shit out of it and make it useful? So so that's one story. The other thing is we anonymize everything. So I don't know until the end user turns it on who it is that it actually has those specific skills. And companies are all different, right? I have some companies that are just like, I don't care, it's our data. I'm doing it at a proxy level, and I'm just collecting. So it depends on the culture of the organization. Probably a couple more right here.
Is it trained for certain industries? Do you have to put in keywords for certain areas?
The lexicon, again, it's 6 million terms within the lexicon, but we understand that a chip is different for Intel than it is for Pepsi, and people have their own, certain taxonomies or lexicons that they want to import and certain things that they want to shut off. So that's part of an implementation where we say, this is discoverable, right? Like, out of the box, we're not going to show the Britney Spears expert. But at NBC Universal, it's pretty damn important to understand who the Britney Spears expert is. So, it's all configurable. You already have them. Let me see one more.
The matching screen where you had the skills and the declared skills and what is available or what people are looking for. Can you show that and explain that?
The matching, the people stuff?
Yeah, the screen where you had like two of these, two arcs.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
one?
that.
Yeah, so what this is doing is, it is showing on your left, am I right? Searches that are being performed, and then this demonstrates the knowledge gap. So here's searches for expertise, here's expertise that exists, here's connections that have been made. So that just kind of gives you the delta to say, hey, we either need to do a better job connecting our specific experts, or we need to hire people with that specific expertise. I got probably time for one more. Is that?
How do you solve the problem of new people coming in the company because they'll have nothing?
Yep. So it's great for new people coming within the company because new people coming within the company typically have the most questions. So that enables them to get answers faster. But the other thing that we do is we seed the knowledge graph. So one of the first things that you can do is import your LinkedIn skills, and that's another great way we get to this kind of who knows who story. So I can take everything that I've done within LinkedIn, and we have an API that brings all that in. So on day one, I can seed that knowledge graph and have information about myself based upon, again, the declarative stuff that I've done from something like LinkedIn. Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks to all the presenters tonight for dealing with my cough.